Good evening. There are many people to thank for this event, but I'd personally like to acknowledge the following individuals for their vision, hard work, and effort. Elisa Bear, Cody Smith, Kristen Ponce, and Kelly Brennan. But I'd also like to extend my gratitude to every one of you, the audience, for being here tonight to celebrate my mother's life. As I walked to the podium, I tried to channel my inner Pat Kautter. She would say, "Rich, breathe deep and take in the moment." Patricia, Pat, Granny Pat, PK, Sestra, Aunt Patty, and Mom were among the many names she was called. Teacher, writer, director, producer, choreographer, entrepreneur, volunteer, political advocate, and contract negotiator were among the many titles she held. But my mother's life was so much more than names and job titles. How do you define a woman whose life meant so much to so many people? Let's start at the beginning. Born in 1949 in the coal region town of Mount Carmel, PA, her parochial school years were filled with religion and discipline. Even at a young age, she was inquisitive and challenged the nuns on Catholic doctrine. The gritty town helped forge her tough spirit. As a tomboy, she could throw a football better than most boys in the town. But back then, there was inequality with boys and girls sports, and she could not participate. Believe me, that would not be forgotten by my mother. It was in the early years that my mother developed insomnia. Every night she was awoken by the orchestra of noises made by her family as they slept. My grandmother's sniffles, my Uncle Len's snoring, my Uncle Phil's teeth grinding. The rising crescendo reaching its climax by my grandfather's loud yawn followed by a series of expletives. My mom would sit up and yell, "Shut up!" And they thought she was the crazy one. Sneaking out of the house in the middle of the night to get some relief became a regular ritual. Soon, trips to the Big Apple to see her Aunt Rita began to open up the vast world outside the Mount Carmel boundaries. On one such occasion, my mom and her colorful aunt traveled to the Bronx Zoo only to find it was closed for the day. So they did what most would do. They took off their shoes, threw them over, climbed the fence, and they had the entire zoo to themselves for the day. True story. Even as a young girl, my mother was a maverick and did not walk the path most traveled. As a young mother, living in an eclectic Landisville neighborhood, my mother continued her college education. She would attend the neighborhood Bible study in the morning, only to find herself at the Gators in the afternoon. Who are the Gators, you may be asking? A colorful family from Brooklyn, New York, whose house was filled with musicians, a Broadway dancing father, authentic Italian food, scotch, and profanity-laced stories that were told into the wee hours of the night. Even back then, my mother enjoyed people from all different walks of life, and she was never judgmental. She found interesting things in people. When it was time for me to attend Catholic religion classes, better known as CCD, we went to St. Leo the Great to enroll. Upon hearing there were no more spaces, she offered to teach a class so I could participate. When the request was denied, we hopped in the car, drove down the street, and became Lutheran. Yes, Pat Kautter did not take no for an answer and kept moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, trying to keep up with my mother when she was on a mission was next to impossible. Fast-paced steps, weaving in and out of crowds, she was like a running back heading to the end zone. She left many people in the dust wondering, where did she go? As a young parent, I was actually nervous allowing her to take my children to Hershey Park for the very first time. Saying to Zach and Rowan, keep up with Granny Pat, and please, please do not let go of her hand. Here are a few examples to illustrate her uncanny ability to get favorable results. On a last-minute whim, she drove to New York City to see the Pope. With not a ticket available, she managed to negotiate her way in and get a prime spot to see His Holiness drive by. During a visit by President Obama to F&M College, our group was held at a security checkpoint. As the story goes, my mother vanished, later appears sitting near the front row. On one of our trips to the Big Apple, we came upon a 2-hour line to see the Statue of Liberty. After hearing the all-too-familiar phrase, "I'll be right back," she emerged moments later at the front of the line, waving us frantically to come forward. And finally, while in 7th grade, my mom and I were leaving Central Park. We stumbled on the movie Tootsie. Within 10 minutes, my mother had me on the movie set as an extra walking behind Bill Murray and Dustin Hoffman. Trips with my mom were always an adventure. She always was concerned and wanted the best for Doug and I. Did we have the right friends? A thorough review of our girlfriend's credentials, and making sure we evolved as men to be more than just one-dimensional jocks. Yes, participating in dance theater was required. 2 funny stories to illustrate this point. Growing up, my brother was painfully shy. Ironic for someone who became a tough Division I football player and now a lieutenant in the New York City Police Department. One afternoon, in the late 70s, my mom became aware that Doug was being picked on by a fellow elementary student. The Pat Kautter approach to bullying went down like this. Doug and Mom drove to the student's house. Dragging my brother out of the car, she rang the doorbell repeatedly. The exchange was quick, like a Mike Tyson fight. My mom said, "Mrs. Smith, your son Jonathan has been picking on my son. Now, I've instructed Doug that the next time that Jonathan picks on him, Doug is to punch him in the head. Do you understand this, Mrs. Smith? Do you understand this, Jonathan? Do you understand this, Doug?" All 3 of them nodded. My mom then slowly backpedaled to her car like Clint Eastwood. No shots fired, but problem solved, PK style. My senior year, my mom was adamant that I diversify my resume for college and write for the school newspaper. Of course, I selected something sports-related. When I finished, I admired my masterpiece. I thought, not bad at all. The next morning, I witnessed my work had a bloody encounter with my mother's red pen. She stayed up that night editing and rewriting as only an English teacher could do. When the newspaper was released, my friends and fellow athletes were amazed at my hidden talent. That year, my column, Her Work, was awarded Best Writing in the state of Pennsylvania. A little uncomfortable accepting that award. She was a perfectionist. In 1978, she began her career at Hempfield teaching English literature and immersing herself in the performing arts. She immediately had an impact on her students' lives, especially those with low self-esteem and kids from broken homes. It was not unusual for students to stop by our house and sit on the couch for hours, seeking advice from my mother. Mom had the ability to build confidence and give them encouragement they could not find elsewhere. And somewhere along the line, dance theater was born. The evolution of this event was incredible to see. Pat Kautter worked to perfection and exhaustion for every show. The last few weeks leading up to opening night, my mom would get by on 1 to 2 hours of sleep and a steady diet of M&M and potato chips. Each year she would proclaim, "This show is going to be a disaster." And of course, each performance had the PK magic and was received with a standing ovation every time. So tonight, in honor of my mother, enjoy some chocolates before you go to bed. It was through dance theater she touched so many lives. A few days after my mother's passing, I was shown her Facebook page. There was an incredible outpouring of emotion, condolences, and memories by the hundreds and hundreds of students and colleagues. I was deeply touched by the words and phrases that were repeated over and over again, such as, "She took a chance and believed in me. She made me shine even brighter. Incredible visionary. Unparalleled drive, passion, and determination. Fierce and feisty, pushing people to their maximum. She created magic. And my favorite, it's hard to forget someone who gave so much to remember. But Pat Kautter cannot be defined just by dance theater. There was so much more to this woman of high intellect and compassion. She was passionate about racial and gender equality and was an advocate for change. She became immersed in the 2016 political campaign. She canvassed for people to vote, partook in marches, and rallied with her close friends to create awareness. She enjoyed going to the tough neighborhoods like the 7th Ward to discuss what issues were important to people and why they should vote. My mother had sharp wit, humor, and verbal dexterity. She enjoyed conversation and debate with people on so many different levels. Pat Kautter was extremely passionate in her beliefs. She was a caring and supportive daughter, mother, grandmother, and friend, always more concerned about your well-being than hers. She was quick to change the subject when the conversation became about her. For a person who was out in the public eye and ran in various social circles, she was very private in her innermost feelings and vulnerability. It was through her battle with cancer that she embraced her friends and partook in their benefits like nourishment for her mind and for her soul. They each brought something special to the table for my mother: tomfoolery, spiritual guidance, political conversation, and the love of the arts. What I will miss most about my mother's writing was pure poetry. It was in her letters and cards she expressed her deep love and encouragement. She had a way to make me feel unique and special. Her pure laughter, childlike silliness and smile, her ability to tell a great story. She was funny. She was really funny. The magic she created at Christmas and her giving spirit. And the love and encouragement she had with my sons, Zach and Rowan. Doug and I have always been proud and honored to be Patricia Kautter's son. Mom, the world's a better place because of you. Thank you.